Hey everyone and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're looking at how AI is kind of like forcing its way into creative spaces.
Oh, yeah, like comedy.
Exactly. Comedy and, even how we're working together.
Interesting.
So, can a machine really make us laugh? And what happens when you throw AI into a team with, like, real people? I'm curious. We've got some cool sources to help us figure this out.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, we've got this MIT article about effective computing, which already sounds super sci-fi.
I know, right?
Then there's this YouTube video of a comedian trying out a stand-up routine completely written by AI.
Oh, that's gotta be good.
And to top it off, we've got a bunch of MIT Sloan articles about a study on, well, humans and AI trying to, work together. Should be fascinating.
Definitely. So where do we start?
Let's jump into that effective computing article.
Yeah, it's good to meet.
So it talks about this woman, Rana Kaliouby, who went from studying, get this, teenage body language in Egypt to pioneering emotion reading AI at a company called Effectiva.
Wow. Talk about a career change.
Right. I mean, teenagers are already hard to read, but in Egypt, that's a whole other level. Anyway, the article mentions that she was inspired by an MIT researcher, Rosalind Picard.
Okay, heard of her.
Yeah, Picard wrote this book called Effective Computing. And her whole point was that for machines to really get us, they need to understand emotions. It's like she predicted this whole AI thing trying to read our feelings.
Like they're reading our minds.
Kind of. And the crazy thing is, Effectiva software actually analyzes our facial expressions and how we're talking to figure out our emotions. Those tiny little movements we make that show how we're really feeling.
Even when we're trying to hide it.
Yeah. Effectiva says their software picks up on all of that, and even things like if you're sleepy or distracted.
That's wild. I mean, I definitely make some weird faces when I'm thinking hard, but AI can actually pick up on that.
Apparently so. So, theoretically, your computer could totally know when you're zoning out in a meeting.
Dig Brother is watching.
Right. But it could also be helpful for things like online classes. Imagine a program that could change how fast or hard the lesson is based on whether a student seems bored or lost.
Oh, that's a good point. It could really personalize learning.
Or maybe you could tell when I'm about to rage quit a level in a video game and offer me a hint.
I could use that for sure.
But let's switch gears for a sec and talk about humor. Can AI really get something as, well, human as a good joke?
That's a tough one. Humor is so subjective.
It is. And that's where this YouTube video comes in. It's this comedian, Karen Hobbs, trying out a stand-up routine written entirely by AI. I was watching like, oh, this is either going to be brilliant or a train wreck.
No pressure.
And there's this AI ethics researcher, Mari Atkin, who makes a really interesting point. She says that even the super smart AI like ChatGPT is basically just mimicking. It's not coming up with original thoughts,
So it's just finding patterns in a ton of data.
Yeah, patterns in all this text and code. But it's not really getting the human experience. And I think that's clear in the video. Hobbs is totally uncomfortable with the material at first.
Makes sense. It's probably a bunch of cliches and stuff.
It is. Like the AI is trying to be funny, but just using old jokes and stereotypes. Not cool, AI.
Ouch. So was it a complete disaster?
Well, not exactly. What's interesting is that the experience actually makes Hobbs think about her own fears as a comedian, especially when she was starting out.
Oh, I see. Like it forced her to confront her own insecurities.
Exactly. It's like the AI, in its own weird way, helped her find her own comedic voice again. So maybe there's a silver lining to the awkwardness.
That's a good point. It makes you appreciate how special human humor really is.
Totally. Humor is all about context, timing, things we've all experienced. It's not just words in a funny order.
Absolutely. So AI might be able to analyze humor, but it can't replace that human spark, connecting with people on an emotional level.
Okay, so we've talked about emotions and humor. Now let's get into this MIT Sloan research. And get this. Human AI teams don't always do better than humans or AI working alone.
Really? That's surprising. I would have thought combining human smarts with AI would be unstoppable.
Me too. But apparently it's not that simple. This lack of synergy, as the researchers called it, was especially true for decision-making tasks. Like, these teams had trouble with spotting deepfakes, figuring out how much of a product people would buy.
Deepfakes?
Yeah, those videos that look super real but are totally fake, and even diagnosing medical cases. Any idea why these were so tricky for the human AI teams?
Well, maybe in those cases, AI is just better on its own. Like it can process so much data that it actually beats human intuition. Think about a doctor. They use their knowledge, but also pick up on subtle clues from the patient. AI can analyze tons of similar cases and see patterns a human might miss. So maybe it's better to let the AI take charge there.
Okay, that makes sense. But then the study also found these teams were great at creative stuff, like summarizing social media, writing those chatbot responses, and coming up with new content. It's like the opposite of what we just talked about. Why the difference?
Well, maybe AI is like the perfect partner for those parts of creative work that are like repetitive and detail oriented. So humans can have the big ideas and the AI can help make them real.
So it's like having an assistant who never gets tired and can turn your creative vision into something people can actually see or hear.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty cool when you think about it. But it also makes you wonder if AI is getting so good at the work part of creative work, what does that mean for how we define creativity?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely need to explore further. But for now, let's get back to the practical stuff. We've seen human-AI collaboration can be awesome, but also messy. So how do we use this knowledge to actually work better with AI?
Okay, yeah, how do we make this work?
Well, the MIT Sloan folks have some advice. They say first, organizations need to really look at their current systems. Are humans and AI actually working well together? Or are they getting in each other's way? It can't just be about having the latest tech, right?
Right, it has to be about using it the right way.
Exactly. It's about understanding how they're working together. Are they using each other's strengths?
Yeah.
Or are they just duplicating effort or slowing things down?
So it's like a relationship. You got to figure out how to communicate and work together.
Right. It's not just about having AI, it's about using it smart. So once you've looked at that, what's next?
Well, they say the next step is figuring out where AI can really add value. Like we saw, creative fields seem to be a good fit, especially things like marketing, design, content creation, where AI can take on some of those everyday tasks and free up humans to think big.
So let AI do what it does best. Research, finding patterns, analyzing,
Yeah.
and let humans do what they do best.
Yeah,
All that nuance, context, and the creative stuff.
exactly. It's not about replacing humans, it's about making them even better. And finally, they say organizations need to set clear rules for how AI is used.
Rules. Like what kind of rules?
Well, thinking about data privacy and potential biases. Because AI systems can inherit biases from the data they learn from. We got to make sure we're using AI in a fair and responsible way.
It sounds like creating a successful human-AI partnership takes a lot of planning and thought. It's not something you can just throw together and expect it to work perfectly.
Definitely not. It's a process, right? You have to keep evaluating and adjusting how you're working together. And it's important to remember AI is just a tool. Like any tool, it can be used well or badly.
All right, listeners, I think we've covered a lot here. We've seen that AI can read our emotions, maybe even try stand-up comedy, and that working with it requires a whole new way of collaborating and understanding each other.
It's a fast-moving world, and we need to stay informed. After all, the future of work, and maybe even the future of creativity, depends on how we work with this powerful tech.
And on that note, we'll be moving on to part 2, where we dig even deeper into what all of this means for the future of art, music, writing, and so much more. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about AI being a tool, not some magic solution.
For sure, we need to figure out how to use it well. Which brings us back to that question. If AI gets really good at those repetitive, routine parts of being creative, what does that mean for how we see creativity?
It makes you wonder, if AI can handle the technical stuff, does that make the human's role less creative?
I'm not so sure.
Or does it free us up to be more creative, to explore those new ideas we never had time for before?
I'm leaning toward that one, it being more freeing.
Yeah.
It's like having a superpowered partner who can take your messy first draft and turn it into a masterpiece.
Oh, like that.
It wouldn't make you less creative, it would boost it.
Totally. And that has huge implications for everything: creative, art, music, writing.
Imagine AI helping composers write entire symphonies.
Or architects design incredible buildings.
This is
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
It is. But we can't forget the human side of it all. Our emotions, experiences, or unique perspectives. That's what gives creative work meaning, that soul. And that's not something AI can copy.
At least not yet.
Right. So the best future I can see is humans and AI working together, each using their strengths to create something amazing.
Like a dance.
A dance.
Yeah. Human creativity leads, and AI gives the tools to make it real.
I love that. And The cool thing is, this dance keeps changing. As AI gets smarter, who knows what new creative things we'll be able to do.
It's an exciting future, but maybe a little scary too.
Totally. It's full of potential, but also brings up questions about ethics, who owns what even is creativity.
Exactly. And those are questions we need to think about right now. The choices we make today are going to affect the creative world for years to come. So listeners, don't just sit back and watch this AI revolution. Get involved, experiment, ask tough questions. The future of creativity isn't something happening to us, we're creating it together.
Who knows? Maybe we'll look back one day and be amazed how far we've come thanks to this weird but ultimately awesome partnership between us and AI.
I love that. But before we go, let's recap. Today we jumped into effective computing and how AI is learning to read and react to our emotions. This has the potential to change how we interact with tech and maybe even with each other.
Then we explored AI writing stand-up comedy. It was interesting to see how AI can mimic humor, but that real comedic genius still needs that human touch. It really highlighted how complex the human experience really is.
And finally, we dug into that MIT Sloan research that showed us that human AI teams are more complicated than we thought. Sometimes, working alone is actually better.
We talked about how important it is to figure out where AI can add value and where human skills like creativity, intuition, and emotional intelligence are still super important.
And we discussed assessing our current systems, figuring out where AI can really shine, and setting up clear rules for its use. It's all about finding that balance where humans and AI work together seamlessly.
And let's not forget the ethical side of AI, especially in creative fields. As AI gets more involved in art, music, and writing, we have to be mindful of things like bias, ownership, and how this might affect human creativity.
So what do you think, listeners? Is AI a threat or an opportunity for creativity?
Head over to our social media and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and keep diving deep. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's amazing to think how much our understanding of AI has evolved, even in just the past few years.
It's true. We've gone from worrying about robots taking over to seeing AI as a tool, a partner even, in creative work.
A huge shift, for sure. And I think that shift in how we see AI is important.
Definitely.
It helps us move past being scared and see the potential.
And be aware of the problems, too.
Right. Got to keep those in mind. So where do we go from here? What questions should we be asking as AI keeps changing and getting more powerful?
I think one of the biggest is how do we make sure it's used ethically and responsibly, especially in creative fields?
It'd be a shame if art lost its heart.
Exactly. We don't want to stop innovating, but we don't want art to become soulless or just a bunch of copies.
So how do we keep that human element, that heart and soul, as we use AI more and more?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And it leads to another question. How do we define ownership when AI is involved?
Ownership.
Yeah, like if an AI writes a song or a poem, who owns it?
That's a good question. The programmer, the user. Does the AI have any rights?
Exactly. It gets complicated fast.
Definitely a brain twister. You'd need lawyers, ethicists, and tech experts all working together to sort that out.
Absolutely. And these conversations need to happen now before it's too late.
This isn't just some abstract debate. This is about the future of creativity, and that affects all of us.
What do you think, listeners? Is AI a threat or an opportunity for creativity?
Head over to social media and let us know. We want to hear your hopes and fears about all of this, because ultimately this isn't just about AI, it's about what it means to be human.
To create, to express ourselves, to connect through art, music, stories, all the things that make life interesting and meaningful.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. But this is just the beginning of the exploration. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and never stop diving deep.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.